Um, my name is Chase Wheaton. I am a residence hall coordinator here at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. This is my third year here at ECU as a hall coordinator. A couple of things about me, just so you know who you're talking to this morning. Some of my favorite things: music. I love music. Beyonce and Ariana Grande take the cake for me. No debate there. Coffee, love coffee. This has 5 shots of espresso in it and will definitely not be the last cup of coffee I have today. And I also love laughing. I am told very regularly that people are aware of my presence in a geographical vicinity because of my laugh and how loud it is before they're able to see that I'm there. So just a couple things about me. My favorite color is also green, which is why those words are in green. We will go ahead and jump on in. Today is not only going to be about me, though. If you got a chance to take a look at the program description. Part of this is going to be sort of me presenting some information to you all about staff morale and toxic positivity and those sorts of things as it relates to the pandemic. But then the second half and the larger half of this is going to be a panel sort of discussion with a couple of my esteemed colleagues from around the region that I think are going to be able to share some really wonderful, interesting insight about this topic and be able to speak about this from their different experiences too, so that you're kind of getting this from multiple lenses and not just Chase Wheaton's at ECU. So on that note, I would love to take a quick second for our panelists to unmute themselves and introduce themselves real quick, just so we can get excited about who we're going to be hearing from here shortly. Maybe Mike, if you want to start, and then maybe Tasha, and then Sean, if y'all just want to quickly introduce yourselves to the group.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Perry. I am one of the Associate Directors of Residence Life here at East Carolina University, and I am very honored that Chase asked me to join in on this panel. So hopefully later on in the presentation, I'll be able to share a few tidbits of things I've kind of learned along the way, especially in this last year, just regarding how to support staff through what is a difficult time, definitely, for everybody.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tasha Smith, and I am a community director at UNC Chapel Hill. This is my third year. Time flies because I was just in grad school, but here we are. And so Chase and I actually did our grad program together at the University of Florida. So I was also honored to hear from Chase and inviting me to speak with you all today.
And hello, good morning from sunny Florida Day. My name is Sean Johnson. I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Residence Life here at the University of Florida. I am in my 10th year here professionally. I graduated from grad school in the mighty Midwest, decided that cold winters, as much as I love snow, cold winters was not a thing for me anymore. And so I came down here to University of Florida, been here ever since. And I'm glad to be here. Since we're talking about how we know Chase and all that, I was Chase's RA in class instructor. So yes, so to see him here is definitely an honor to be asked to serve on this panel with him. So yeah.
Wow. Simpler times in RA class, man. Yes, thank you all three. These are 3 of the smartest, most wonderful, brilliant people I know on planet Earth. So definitely in the SEAHO region then. And so I'm excited for you all to get to hear from them. A little bit of context about why I chose this topic and why I decided to devote this time to talking about staff morale and COVID-19 and what's inspired me for that. The pandemic has had a pretty significant effect on my department, campus living here at ECU. Hopefully, for your all's sake, a lot more than it has impacted you all, because I would not wish this on anyone. And so I just wanted to kind of share a quick timeline of kind of how the pandemic has affected our department here at ECU, so you can have a better idea and more context as to where I'm coming from. So in last May, pretty early on, actually, compared to a lot of other schools, ECU had already announced that we were going to be opening 2 weeks earlier for the fall 2020 semester, and we were going to be adopting a block class schedule to allow us to pivot should we need to do that in the case of a surge of cases. Then in July, we already had students coming to campus to drop their things off and begin the process of moving into their rooms. August 10th was the first day of classes for us. And then 13 days later, August 23rd, that wonderful Saturday, we got the email from the chancellor that we were transitioning to online classes and that most of the residence halls on campus would be closed unless a student applied for an exception to stay on campus with us and was approved. So then, you know, a week or so later, we had our move out process and finished with that. And so at that point, we ended our RA employment for the fall semester, shifting all of those student staff responsibilities to the professional staff here on campus. We have 14 hall coordinators here and 6 management team members for residence life. And we had approved 800 students to stay on campus. So the professional staff were going to take the burden of all of that in the hopes that the spring semester would be better. Unfortunately, around October of last semester, we announced that we would not have any student staff for the spring 2021 semester because of budget shortfalls that we experienced in terms of closing so early and issuing refunds to all of our students and their families. We just couldn't afford to have student staff for the next semester. And that includes not only the RAs, but also our front desk staff, any sort of student staff employee in our department. And then November, the university announced that all housing staff were going to be given 7 weeks of furlough that we are now currently taking and that we have to take before June 30th of this year, before the fiscal year ends. And then fast forward to last month, January, we welcomed back over 1,800 students onto campus, spread out pretty widely across campus across 9 different residence halls. Again, no student staff. All of those responsibilities are lying with the professional staff here. And while we are trying to balance taking our 7 weeks of furlough before June 30th. So a pretty significant disruption to our normal operation here, our normal job responsibilities, life on campus. And so, you know, I know that really everyone is experiencing a lot of widespread sort of devastation because of this, but these specific circumstances here kind of got me to thinking about this topic more in depth. So just to quickly recap what the learning outcomes for this are going to be. You will hopefully gain a better understanding of what high and low staff morale will look like and can compare the effects of those two on a workplace environment. You'll be able to reflect on how COVID-19 has impacted your own personal outlook on your work as a housing professional. You will be able to engage with our group of panelists and discuss their experiences about the pandemic and staff morale. And then hopefully we will learn moving forward how we all can contribute positively to our staff morale during times of emotional pain and distress for staff, which is really what this pandemic is. It's just a time of a 12-month long time of emotional pain for everyone. So, so talking about staff morale and toxic positivity, first of all, I'd like to hear from you all what high staff morale looks like to you and what that looks like in your department. And I actually have a poll everywhere set up so that you can participate that way and we can see those responses come in. So I'm going to pull that up, which inevitably means that I'm going to stop sharing this. So we're gonna make this work. And we're gonna go back to this share button. And we're sharing the screen, share. Okay, and so for, y'all are over here. And so for those of you who maybe are not familiar with Poll Everywhere, you can either submit your feedback by texting Chase Wheaton 705 to that number, or if you have a laptop open, if you want to open up a separate window and go to that website, Poll, let me wait for that thing to minimize, but it's pollev.com/ that username. And so, I got to activate it. Okay. And so what does high staff morale look like to you, and what does that look like in your department? Taking initiative. Yes, we love that. I know it takes a couple seconds to get it pulled up and stuff.
Chase, I don't know if it's me, but the website is still saying it's waiting for you to activate.
Oh, maybe.
There we go.
When I clicked what I thought was activate, what I was really doing was deactivating it. So, okay, thank you all.
Chase, the same thing with the texting to Chase Wheaton 705.
Maybe try it again now and see, because it was deactivated a couple seconds ago.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, of course.
Tried the texting and it works now.
Wonderful. Okay, we've got maintaining solution-oriented discussions, creating fun ways to get to know everyone during staff meetings, positivity and encouragement, willingness to step in, high trust and assuming the best in each other. Yes, we love that. Happiness in the work environment, something we all strive for. Innovation of new ideas, awesome. Feeling valued, a driven collective effort, staff being excited to come to work, being a team player, willingness to help wherever needed. Again, excited to come to work, no better feeling. Being a team player, celebrating the wins and the achievements of others in the department. Willingness to take on those hard tasks. Yep, that's a good sign. Ability to be transparent. Being energized to come to work. Okay. It says that the poll's full and is no longer accepting responses. So if it's not working for you now, it's because this is the free version of Poll Everywhere. But these are all great. Engagement in activities outside of your assigned role, genuine engagement, a positive environment, retention. Yes, yes, yes. Fulfillment. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing this just for time's sake, feeling free to be creative and feeling like you have a voice. Happiness. Awesome. I feel like that's a good one to end on. Okay. And so let me pull up this screen again. You all actually are better at this than I am, because you covered a lot of the things that I was going to cover in terms of how high staff morale manifests in the workplace. Almost every single one of those things that you all mentioned are included somewhere in this list. You know, general enthusiasm, excitement, and energy in the staff that often spills over into your customer, whoever, in our case, you know, students. Friendships among employees that are genuine and authentic. Natural desires to go above and beyond the job expectations, higher levels of productivity, better creativity and innovation, higher employee retention rates, which has a tangible effect on the finances of the department, lower rates of employees being absent from work, increased teamwork, more confidence in yourself and in the team and in your department, and just overall higher levels of job satisfaction. So I think that's pretty easy for a lot of us to kind of identify what high staff morale will look like to us, because we're all probably pretty familiar with that. And so on the flip side, we're gonna do one more poll everywhere. What does low staff morale look like to you? Or what does that look like in your department when you think of low staff morale? And we're moving and grooving. And we are clicking and sharing. And we're activating correctly this time. Okay, and it's actually the same website and the same text code. So if you already have that pulled up, that should hopefully make this a little bit easier. People not participating in staff meetings. Yep, Zoom burnout. Yes, hopefully that doesn't, hopefully this isn't contributing to that burnout right now. Not giving staff members grace. Procrastinating for sure. High turnover. Higher rates of mental health concerns, absolutely. A fear-based culture. Yep, that's very toxic. No one wants to work there. Constant fatigue, disengaged and no connection to the department or the divisional identity, yes. Being disgruntled, feeling disenfranchised. Ooh, spending more time on minor tasks. Yeah, I love that. Assigning blame. Low energy and a lack of drive to complete tasks. Falling out of communication. Gossiping. Yep. Unfiltered complaints. For sure, for sure. Again, you all are hitting a lot of the things that I was going to talk about. This is really good. So low work quality, depression, work fatigue, burnout, resistance to change, people not feeling valued. Yep. Okay. So again, just for time's sake, just so I can give the panelists, I think, the time that you all are really here for. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this, but these are all not getting assigned duties complete, doing the bare minimum, zero trust of leadership for sure. So we'll go ahead and stop sharing that. Okay. Okay. So yeah, just like everything you all said, just as powerful as high staff morale is in an office, low staff morale is even more powerful. One of my former grads actually was in a master's program for organizational psychology, and she told me that there was a study that showed that a single positive employee with a positive disposition and whatnot, it can take that person an entire day, an entire work day to shift a workplace, an office culture, an office mindset, whereas an employee that's more negative, more disgruntled maybe, it can take them as little as 15 to 20 minutes to do the same to their office or workplace culture and mindset. So pretty powerful stuff, but everything that you all mentioned, lower levels of productivity, higher numbers of conflicts in the workplace, more customer complaints and customer dissatisfaction, more burnout and turnover, more absenteeism in your employees, lower job satisfaction, poorer work quality all around, gossiping and excessive complaining over small matters that maybe wouldn't be as concerning if the morale wasn't so low, and us versus them talk in a department. So I also wanted to take a couple minutes to specifically talk about toxic positivity, because I feel like this is something that we've heard a lot about over the last several months, and something that I feel is pretty relevant to the conversation today. For anyone who may not be familiar with the concept, toxic positivity is a societal assumption that a person, no matter how great their emotional pain or how extreme their situation is, that they should only have a positive outlook on their life, on that situation. And so that results in the denial, minimization, and invalidation of the authentic human emotional experience. Those are emotions that every human is supposed to experience and that are healthy to experience and not just repress and suppress away. Some examples, I'm sure we have hundreds of examples in our heads. We could probably do an entire SEAHO presentation just on toxic positivity. But just a couple of quick examples. Everything happens for a reason. At least you have a job right now. It'll all work out in the end. Something good will come out of this. Just be positive. And my favorite, it could be worse. Yes, it could. Beyonce could stop making music. That would truly be the worst of the worst that could happen. So toxic positivity in the workplace, like a couple of you mentioned, will not only affect the mental health of your staff, but it's also going to have tangible negative impacts on the operation of your department and the operation of your team. And a lot of these, as you read through some of these effects, will probably look pretty familiar to what we saw in the low staff morale slide and in some of the examples that you all were sharing. It will reduce employee motivation and productivity. It will leave employees unprepared for challenges and difficulties if they are always looking at the positive and not focusing on the very real risks or obstacles that may be coming towards them. That can leave them ill-prepared for those things. It can stifle creativity and problem solving. A lot of innovation comes from frustration and anger. It will limit your team's ability to listen and empathize with their customers, in our case, students, because they don't feel like they're being listened to and empathized with. It will undoubtedly hinder the communication between a staff team and their supervisors, who feel like they can't adequately vent or complain to their supervisors. So the intent is absolutely there and is very easy to see with toxic positivity, but it's important to acknowledge that psychologically it doesn't work, and it actually creates more harm than good in the employee mindset. So on that note, that is all of the information that I wanted to share with you all, and so now we're going to hand it over to the panelists. And so I have a couple of questions here that I'm going to ask them to get the conversation started. And then if you all have questions that you think of as we're going through these, if you want to send them in the chat, please feel free to do that, and I can monitor that and ask those once we get to the end if we have time. Or if we get to the end and we have time, you all can unmute yourselves and ask questions directly to the panelists too. And for my panelists, you all feel free to answer however you'd like. If you don't feel like you need to answer a question because something's already been said, obviously that's your prerogative. So the first question for you all is to describe the morale of the staff in your area during the COVID-19 pandemic, and then in one word, describe your own COVID-19 working experience.
So here in Florida, I think for us, the morale of our staff it's been like a roller coaster. I think just depending on kind of the conversations that we're talking about and what information is coming out. I think very recently with some staff just leaving and different things like that, it has affected, I would say, affected us probably from the top down and the bottom up, just because they were staff who had a great impact on a lot of people. And so I think that's been tough. And for me personally, my experience has been very vulnerable.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, I'll hop in. So I'll speak to my staff specifically. So my staff from this year. So I had a majority new staff. So probably about 2 or 3 returners and about 8 new RAs. So as we know, a lot of times when they start, they're really excited. And so mine had, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic and they knew things would be different this year, they were still excited, eager, open, and helpful. They were very patient until I guess things progressed a little more in the semester, and they began to get nervous because at a certain point they're worrying about their jobs and if they're going to get sent home again, and those nerves started to settle in. And then also when it came to staff meetings and one-on-ones with them, they started off very energetic, but as they settled into their classes and I guess got Zoom fatigue and things like that, I started to see them have less energy. When we would meet, it would be hard to have staff meetings because it doesn't really seem like anyone wants to talk. So it shifted throughout the year. Oh, and then to answer the second part, so my word would be, whew. Okay, that might not be an actual word, but literally, like, that is how I've been feeling. WHEW. Point.
Yeah, I would say so. Chase sort of shared with you, the timeline of sort of how things happened at ECU, and I would think most of you probably saw that and felt some of the same things that we probably have been feeling since August. And I would say the fall in particular for us was really, it just felt like each day was closer to getting bad news. And it just felt like each day you were coming to work and you were like, okay, what are we going to learn today that's going to be upsetting? Or what are we going to learn today that's going to have a negative impact on us and on our students? And, also I think this overwhelming feeling that, decisions, and some of them for reasons of timelines and people's roles were being made in vacuums, and sometimes the way that information was shared was not in the most helpful way. And so I think that had a big impact as well on people's morale throughout the fall semester in particular, and I think even moving into November, when we found out, that we were going to have these 7 weeks of furlough, nearly 2 months of unpaid time that we had to take off, a lot of complacency, and a lot of just sort of this decision that, well, if things can't get better, I'll just do what I have to do and not sort of participate beyond that. And I would say, I think the word I would use probably for my own experience is just painful. I mean, it's just been truly painful.
Okay. Okay. So the next question I have for you all, what has your department done to keep staff morale high and to show staff that they are appreciated and valued throughout the pandemic?
I think for us, this is interesting. So for us, especially our student staff, we have a very student staff base that wants to be engaged, especially in administrative processes. And so it's interesting because a lot of what they want is transparency. They want to be able to sit in on the groups. They want to be able to sit in on the meetings. We have a staff advisory board that toes that line of trying to be a union in some ways. But I think what it comes down to is we really try to find ways to include them more, but also simplify things for them as well and combine things to also in some ways give them some time back. Because I think one of the most struggling things that we faced with this was a kind of disconnect of us advocating for them in certain ways to the academic side of the house. So I think knowing that we, like, for example, this spring, when they found out that they weren't going to have a traditional spring break, we tried to change the way that we did staff training, and when they had to come back, we've, given them, extra time off. And so really tried to find ways to be more transparent and give them some of their time back, which has been appreciated in many ways.
Okay. So I would say for our department, a lot of it was the community directors kind of assessing our own staff and seeing what our staff needed to feel empowered or feel support. So a lot of community directors just did their own thing. So some staffs were they seemed perfectly fine, and I guess to one community director, it didn't look like the staff needed much more, but for another, where staff morale seemed very low, and they needed to give their staff more energy, like they would write them letters or some form of encouragement. So really taking it staff by staff. Similar to what Sean mentioned, there were issues with transparency at one point. And so, as you know, students or staff, they want to know what's going on because in their eyes, they work for the department as well. So if we know something, they should know something before residents know as well. And so initially we struggled with that, but I saw the department move towards getting information to us to get the student staff at least a little bit before the rest of the residents got it. And so some people appreciated it, but of course some staff are like, wait, well, we still found out only an hour before, but I have seen the department make some efforts towards that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would echo all of that, all that's been shared. And I would say, to be quite honest, I don't think I have a very good example of what we've done to keep staff morale high. I think I could probably more so speak to, I think it's just important to remember that, a lot of departments, especially in residence life and housing, rely so much on the relationship piece and the in-person interactions to keep morale high. And so I think that this surprised people in this field in a way that is I think it's gonna make people think for a long time about if there are some long-term changes that we have to make. Because I think that a lot of the things we have taken for granted in our abilities to keep staff morale high are all based on the ability to see people face to face and be in spaces together. So that's what I'll say about it.
Awesome. Okay, so for you, what about the pandemic has made it difficult to be optimistic about your work?
Too much change. I like literally to the sense of even in the midst of everything, we, at our VP level, Vice President Affairs level, we had a change in the name of our department from Housing and Residence Education to Housing and Residence Life. And it's just like, in some ways, is that really needed right now? Even though it's just a change in one word, there's we're meeting, my team and I were meeting every day, at 4 o'clock, and to give updates, and there just was so much change, and there still is so much change. But I think also along with the change, it's almost living in a time where this is just an asterisk type year. This is the 2020, 2021 school year, and we'll be back to normal. And come fall, and it's just no, let's exhale all of this fully before we really start to inhale the next school year. And I think that's hard when there's so many other parts of the operation that have to operate differently than sometimes you may do in residence life or across the institution.
Okay, so Chase, this may not come as a surprise to you, but the in-person interaction has been what has been taking me out, the lack of it. Being a person who does not love admin work. I mean, I'll do it, but that's not why I chose to be a community director. It's been really hard not being able to go to community-wide programs and like interact with my residents and get to know them. We may do it virtually, but everyone knows that it's hard to interact with people virtually, with a big group of people virtually. So that has led to me being less motivated in my position. I often have to remember like why I am a community director, but I think that goes across the board for a lot of people. So I try not to feel bad about it because we'll get back to in-person interaction one day. The other thing is feeling like I'm in a false reality. So especially during the summer, I remember waking up and starting the workday and forgetting that like, oh, we're actually still in a pandemic. And a lot of the work that we are doing is so different than what I would normally be doing in my position. So I think that has made it hard to be optimistic as well.
I have nothing better to say than that.
Okay. For just for time's sakes, that I can hopefully leave a minute or two for questions from the audience. I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the last question that I had. So going forward, how will you all use these experiences to contribute positively to your office's morale in the future during times of emotional pain for staff? Hopefully not on this level.
So for me, I remember back in March, I was struggling because, you know, my coworker, my peer, who was the other assistant director, and like, we had been in this, we were like, you know, superhero and superhero working together, and they left. And so I was at this point where I just literally said to my boss one day, what do you need from me? And they were like, I just need you to be you. And they said, I don't need you to be an assistant director. I need you to be you. And I am the positive person in my department, but I'm the positive person. I'm going to keep it real as well. And so I literally weekly started sending out these like weekly wisdom videos, these different things to try to just really face the facts of where we were, but remain optimistic and knowing that optimism, but not thinking about it in always this term of positivity. And so I really just try to think about like, where are we at right now? And I just want to help us like continuously exhale a lot of these moments before we have to inhale, you know, the next school year, the next moment and stuff like that. So I really just tried to find a way to connect with them at that emotional level.
Yeah, I really like that exhale before you inhale. That's good.
Yeah, I think sort of piggybacking off of Sean, I feel like a lot of departments have seen that some things that we normally require are not as necessary. So when I think about working with my student staff moving forward, if I know that so-and-so is really dealing with something and they're not able to get a particular task done, like how bad will it be that they have to turn it in late or they won't be able to get it done? I think that these moments have really like opened up our eyes to what is actually important and what can like be put to the side. So I'm gonna just keep that thought moving forward.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for a long time, I think the idea has been, you know, to be a good team player or to be a positive member of the staff team, you have to sort of forever and ever be speaking about your department positively. And if you show some level of frustration, or if you have a bad day or whatever, that sort of is translated into, oh, well, maybe you don't like what you're doing. And I think it will be super important for us moving forward to be able to have those conversations where we say, you know, because most of our frustrations or bad days have been a day, right? Not a year or more than that. And I think that we need to really understand the importance that oftentimes the folks who are showing those frustrations or are concerned about maybe the staff morale, like, let's investigate those situations, right? Let's provide some spaces where we can have some good conversations and say, tell us more about that frustration, as opposed to trying to flip it and say, oh, you know, tomorrow will be better, or you know, let's just get through it together, or we'll all get through this. That's not necessarily a means of moving your organization forward. It's more so just a means of you know, minimizing the situation.
Yeah. Okay, we are just at about time, so I'm so sorry that there is a question here in the chat. Has anyone found a good way to share information with students and student staff in the midst of everything being communicated via email? I'm also going to just go ahead and put this final slide up so that you have my information, but probably more importantly, the presenters, the panelists' information, so that if you have questions that maybe you didn't get to ask because, you know, time ran out, I think I speak for all of us in saying you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us, and we are. If you didn't gather that from this session, we're all going through it together, and so there's no one better to help each other out than, you know, our peers and one another.
So Chase, before you go, I do want to answer Brian's topic question. So I would say we've been doing a lot of town halls with our RAs. Literally, we have Zoom, and so we've been doing town halls either during what would have been staff meeting times or during like some kind of quick lunch sessions where you just bring your lunch to Zoom or whatever, and that way it becomes an open forum, but it also is a way for us to get information out there, but get information because we want to recognize them that they are still the frontline staff. And so there are some things that we don't know about that we can take to the higher ups that are making decisions that are like, hey, this doesn't make sense. So that's been a huge blessing for us.